but that's gonna be the main version I'm reading from here. Actually, you know what? I have my I actually have my Lexham English Septuagint in front of me here, so let me just do that actually. Let's see here. Here we go. Hold on a second. All right, so let me go back out of here. We should be on live. We're on YouTube Live. Shalom, YouTube. So we're the Wake and Bayou Assembly, and we're going to be reading. I'm going to be reading the Torah portion for you guys. I'll be using this Lexham English Septuagint, which I really recommend, especially if you're a fan of the full canon of the Ethiopian and Greek Orthodox. So it's really good translation in my opinion. See here, very modern English too. So anyway, oh, by the way, I did want to say, because not everyone has obviously talked to me since yesterday. If you get any messages from me on Facebook, that's not me. Someone hacked my account. I'm actually in the process of permanently deleting my Facebook, so I won't be on Facebook any longer. If you guys want to still keep in contact with me, I would suggest go on Instagram. You can personal message me on Instagram, or go on MeWe, Minds.com. I have accounts on all those 3 platforms, so feel free to reach out to me there. Anyway, so here we go. So we're going to start here in Exodus, which is page 63 in my Septuagint here. Okay. Let's see here. Let me just sit this up a little bit. Okay. All right. Okay. Chapter 12. All right. Chapter 12, Exodus, the Passover. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and Aharon in the land of Egypt, saying, this month is the head of months to you. I like that it says head of months. Among the months of the year, it is the first for you. Speak to the whole assembly of the sons of Yashrael, saying, on the 10th day of this month, let each one take a sheep according to the ancestral households. Each one take a sheep per household, sheep, lamb. Sometimes they're interchangeable in the Septuagint, sheep and lamb. But if those in the household are only a few, that they are not enough for a whole sheep, he will bring in his nearest neighbor along with himself, according to the number of persons, each one a portion enough for him. Let it be reckoned with respect to the sheep. There shall be an unblemished sheep, a male, a year old for you. You will take it from the lambs and the young kids. So you could either use a lamb or a goat. For the meal, what you are to kill for the Passover meal. And then it will be watched closely for you until the 14th of this month, and all the multitude of the congregation of the sons of Yashrael shall slay it toward evening. So you're just killing it, you're not sacrificing it. Okay. I like how it says towards evening. If you really think about it, right, we're going to read further on how it says you have to eat it in that exact same night. If you're killing it at evening, there's no way you're eating the lamb in that same night, like finishing the lamb in that same night. So to me, it makes a lot more sense that you're killing it towards sunset rather than at sunset. You're giving yourself a little bit more time. So anyway, that's just my opinion, but. And they will take some of the blood and place it upon the 2 doorposts and upon the lintel in the houses in which they may eat them in. And on this night, they will eat the meat roasted by fire. They will eat it along with the unleavened bread with bitter herb. And actually, this is something I should mention here. Bitter herbs is not there in the text. So translators kind of, they carry on this tradition of putting herbs there. It should actually say in bitterness. So it should actually say, you will eat unleavened bread in bitterness. So go ahead, Gibsons. I see your hands up.
I just wanted to say that because you talked about how if you start cooking the slaughtering and doing the cooking at night, that there's no way you're eating it that same night.
True.
We will
Every year.
put a lamb leg over the fire, and it takes at least 5 hours, and that thing is never fully cooked. Like, it takes forever for just the leg. So yeah, you're correct.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
good. We need that.
Yeah, so I would suggest toward the evening from the Septuagint probably means like you're at least giving yourself 2 or 3 hours before sunset when you're starting to kill it. I would think. The towards the evening thing would mean like you're not exactly at evening. You're like going towards the end of the day, but you're not really. I would say maybe late afternoon, maybe is what that could be referring to in modern terminology. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense that you have to kill it and start cooking it a little bit before sunset because, yeah, it takes a long, long time. The whole lamb itself probably takes, I don't even know, maybe 8 hours, it's, yeah. And they will take some of the blood. Okay, so we just read that. So you will eat the meat roasted by fire. They will eat it along with unleavened bread in bitterness. You shall not eat it raw or even boiled in water, but rather roasted by fire, the head with the feet and the entrails. None of it should be left behind until morning, and no bone from it should be crushed. But you shall burn the parts left over from it in the fire until morning, and you shall eat it in this way with your loins girded and your sandals on your feet and your staves in your hands, and you shall eat it with haste. It is a Passover to Yahuwah, and I will go in the land of Egypt on this night. Okay, so and I will strike every firstborn in the land of Egypt, human and animal, and I will render right ruling upon all the mighty ones of the Egyptians. I am Yahuwah. And the blood will be as a sign for you upon the houses in which you are dwelling, and I will observe the blood, and I will shelter you. Interesting. Shelter, like protect. So we'll see why that's interesting when we look at the Targums in a little bit. That I will shelter you, and there will be no blow of destruction upon you when I strike the land of Egypt, and this day shall be a memorial for you. You shall celebrate it as a festival to Yahuwah. For all your generations you shall celebrate it as an eternal ordinance. For 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. From the first day you shall remove leaven from your houses. So technically we're not commanded to really remove leaven until the first day of unleavened bread. Okay, so everyone who eats leaven from the first day until the 7th day, that person shall be utterly destroyed from Yasharal. The first day shall be called set apart, and the 7th day shall be called a set apart assembly. You shall do no common labor on these days, except what is done for any person. Only this may be done for you. Observe this commandment, for in this day I will lead your armies out from the land of Egypt. Throughout your generations you shall treat this day as an eternal ordinance. Beginning in the 14th day of this first month from evening, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month until evening. For 7 days no leaven will be present in your houses. Everyone who eats something leavened among both the sojourner and the natives of the land, that person will be utterly destroyed from the congregation of Yasharal. You shall not eat anything leavened, but in all your dwelling places you shall eat unleavened bread. And Moshe summoned the whole council of the elders of the sons of Yasharal and said to them, when you depart, take to yourselves a sheep according to your lineage and sacrifice the Passover. And take a bundle of hyssop. And when you have dipped it from the blood that is beside your door, you shall daub the lintel, both of the doors, with the blood that is beside the door. For you, each of you shall not go out the door of his house until morning. And Yahuwah will pass by to strike the Egyptians. And when he sees the blood on the lintel and on both the doorposts, Yahuwah will pass your door by and will not permit the destroyer to enter your houses to strike. And you shall keep this event as an ordinance for your house, for yourself and for your sons perpetually. And when you enter the land that Yahuwah has given you, just as he had said, you shall keep this ritual. And it shall be when your sons say to you, what is this ritual, that you shall say to them, this Passover is an offering to Yahuwah, as when he sheltered the houses of the sons of Yasharal in Egypt, when he struck the Egyptians, but rescued our houses. And bowing down, the people worshipped. And when they had left, the sons of Yasharal did just as Yahuwah had commanded Moshe, so they did. And it happened during the middle of the night. Also, Yahuwah struck every firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh who sat upon the throne, to the firstborn of the captive slave girl who was in the pit, even to the firstborn of all livestock. And Pharaoh rose up during the night, and his attendants, all the Egyptians. There was a great cry in all the land of Egypt. There was no house in which there was no dead person in it. And Pharaoh summoned Moshe and Aaron during the night and said to them, arise and go forth from my people. Both you and the sons of Yasharal, go and worship Yahuwah, your Elohim, just as you have said. Go, taking along your sheep and your cattle, and now barak me also. And the Egyptians urged the people to go with haste to send them out of the land, for they said, all of us are dying. And the people packed up their dough before it was leavened, their kneading bowls wrapped up in their cloaks upon their shoulders. And the sons of Yasharal did just as Moshe charged them, and requested vessels of silver and gold and clothing from the Egyptians. Yahuwah gave favor to his people in the presence of the Egyptians, and they supplied them and despoiled the Egyptians. And the sons of Yasharal set out from Ramesses towards Succoth. The men were 600,000 on foot besides the rest. And I remember in the Masoretic, it's worded very weird. It's almost worded like there's only 600,000. But it actually says in the Septuagint, besides the rest, meaning there's more than 600,000. It's probably referring to the women and the children as besides the rest. And a numerous mixed group went up with them. So the mixed multitude, you have to add to that 600,000 also. Along with very many sheep, oxen, livestock, and they baked the dough that they carried out of Egypt into unleavened cakes. It was not leavened, for the Egyptians have driven them out, and they could not tarry. And tarry is like an old British word that just means like they could not delay. So just that's a good thing to know about. That's why it's good to know a little bit of British from these old translations. It's good to know that. Nor did they even prepare provisions for themselves for the journey. Now the sojourning. Now this is where you need to get your highlighters out here. You're going to see a huge difference. Now the sojourning of the sons of Yasharal, during which they lived in the land of Egypt, keep going, and in the land of Canaan, were 430 years. Which, by the way, after I read this chapter, I'll show you a second witness to this is actually Jonathan agrees with the Septuagint, believe it or not, of this fact that it's Canaan and Egypt. Okay. It was 430 years, and it happened after the 430 years, all the armies of Yahuwah went forth from the land of Egypt by night. It is advanced guard to Yahuwah to bring them out of the land of Egypt. That night it is advanced guard to Yahuwah for it to be for all the sons of Yasharal in their generations. Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and Aaron, saying, this is the regulation for the Passover. No foreigner shall eat of it. But as for every servant or one purchased with money, you shall circumcise him, and then he may eat of it. A sojourner or hired servant shall not eat of it. It shall be eaten in one house, and you shall not eat meat outside the house, and you shall not break its bone. The whole community of the sons of Yasharal shall perform it. But if some sojourner approaches you to perform the Passover to Yahuwah, you shall circumcise every male belonging to him. Then he may come forward to keep it. And he will be just as also the native of the land. No one uncircumcised shall eat of it. There shall be one. There shall be one regulation for the native and for the stranger who approaches you. The sons of Yashrael did as Yahuwah had commanded. Moshe and Aharon had commanded Moshe and Aharon to them, so they did. And it happened on that day, Yahuwah led the sons of Yashrael out of the land of Egypt with their army. So yeah, I'm like improvising a little bit because the English of the Lexham English Septuagint, sometimes they make it a little too modern. So I'm trying to improvise while I'm reading out loud. So anyway, that was Exodus chapter 12 from the Lexham English Septuagint. I'm gonna go before I go to the Targum of Jonathan to show you a second witness of verse 40 being Egypt and Canaan, that it's a combined sojourning. I think Brother Joshua either has a question or wanted to add something. Go ahead, Brother Joshua.
You said you're reading from the Lexham English. I'm reading from the same thing. Mine doesn't say 430. Mine says 435 and 41 and 42 and 40.
No, it says, I was talking about verse 40 where it says, verse 40 where it says, the sojourning of the children of Israel was in the land of Canaan and Egypt were 430 years. It should say there.
I'm reading from the LES too. Mine says in verse 40, now the sojourn of the sons of Yasharal during which they lived in the land of Mitzrayim and in the land of Canaan was 435 years.
Really?
It's a Lexham English Septuagint.
That's kind of weird. They're trying to side with the Masoretic there. That's a little weird.
I've got the same thing going on, Doug, with mine and yours. Hey, bro, yours in verse 21, it says, take a lamb according to your kindreds and slay the Passover. You said in that one, yours says sacrifice. Mine says slay, S-L-A-Y.
Mine does too, and I'm using an ISR.
Yeah, she's using an ISR, and I'm using Brenton's Septuagint.
Yeah. Oh, wow. They actually, I guess from memory, when I was reading verse 40, I must have just verbally read as the Brenton's reads. So yeah, this is where the Lexham is trying to they're trying to conform to the Masoretic text, which is stupid. If I can show what the real Septuagint would actually say. I don't know why they're doing that. It's really retarded. But
Okay, so the Britons is more accurate then.
Yeah, in this particular verse, yeah. I don't know what these translators are doing. They're being, that doesn't even make sense. They're actually siding with a text that basically changed what the Septuagint originally said. So it's weird. It's like that doesn't even make any sense. And I'll show you from the Septuagint is not the only source I have for it being Israel and Canaan. So we'll go into Argos right now after I just show you what Brother Jeff was talking about here. So if you go to any other version of the Septuagint, doesn't matter. LXX 2012, it doesn't even matter. They're all going to say 430 years. So Lexham translator, they screwed up there. I don't know what they were doing, but anyway. So so it's 430 years for the combined sojournings, and I think I have cross references here. You can go Genesis 15:13, it perfectly aligns with that. Let me see if there's any others here. Acts 7:6, Galatians 3:17. So what Paul says in those cross references would perfectly align with the Septuagint there, the 430 years. All right. And let me go to, let's see if this is going to work. I'm going to try to go on my Kindle here on the phone. Yeah. This is where I have my digital targums. Let's see here. Come on. Yeah. Yada, yada, yada. All right. Hold on. All right. Hold on here. Let me see here. Exodus. Hold on. There should be a quicker way to do this. There usually is. I don't know why it's doing that. Hold on. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Okay, so we click on Exodus. Then you can just go to chapter 12. There's a couple things I want to show you guys from the Targum of Jonathan, which is pretty cool in this chapter. Yahusha is actually mentioned here, protecting Yasharel from the angel of destruction, which I think all of us could agree that's referring to Satan as the destroying angel, which it would parallel with Revelations 9:11. So let's see here. See here. So verse 40 in the Targum of Jonathan says right here, says, and the days of the dwelling of the sons of Yasharel in Mitzrayim were 30 weeks of years, 30 times 7 years, which is the sum of 210 years. But the number of the 430 years had passed away since Yahuwah spake to Abraham. In the hour that he spake with him on the dividing, with him on the 15th of Abib, between the dividing parts, until the day that they went out of Mitzrayim. So basically, it's showing here that they were only in Mitzrayim. Of those 430 years, they were only there for 210 years. So I just thought I would show that, just to show as a second witness there. Let's see here. Where does it talk about the word of Yahuwah here? It talks about he will protect their houses. Okay, it shall be destroyed. He shall see the sacrifice of mercy. Let's see here. Here we go. For the splendor of Yahuwah will be manifested, verse 23 here, in striking the Mitzrites. And he will see the blood upon the lintel, upon the door, on 2 posts, and the word of Yahuwah will spread his protection over the door, and the destroying angel will not be permitted to enter your houses to smite. And you shall observe this thing for a statute to you and to your sons for a memorial forever. So I just find that interesting that we see a little battle going on here, that Yahusha is going to be protecting the Israelites from Satan, is what I kind of see there. Go ahead, Sister Marissa. I see you have your hand up.
So I have a question. You know how it says that the Pharaoh woke up in the middle of the night and all of Egypt woke up and there was a dead person in their house? How did they know that there was a dead person?
Well, pretty much because it actually says in the text that there was a great cry in the land of Egypt, and they woke up, and pretty much there was not a house that there wasn't a dead person in. So most likely, and they kind of relate this in the movies a little. If you ever see the 10 Commandments movie or any of them, where the servants of Pharaoh come from their other houses and they're telling him, you know, our child is dead, our child is dead. And he's like, out of fear, he checks for his son. And he finds out his son is dead. So that's probably how that happened. He probably, he was probably informed, oh, all these children are dying. My firstborn is dead. My firstborn is dead. And then he goes into his room and finds his firstborn son dead.
Yeah, I only asked because it says it was like in the middle of the night. So I guess people were asleep and they went to check on their children and they were dead. I mean, I'm just assuming because it doesn't specify.
Probably the wives. The wives were probably checking on the children, and that's where probably the scream came from, a great cry in the land of Egypt. So that would definitely wake the husbands up. And probably Pharaoh's wife even probably checked on his son before he could, and she was probably screaming too. And so
that parallels what happened in this, in the land of Israel when Yeshua was born and they were killing all the boys that were under 2, and it says Rahab and all of them were crying, and there was a great cry because of all the boys that were murdered. So is that kind of like
I think it's like I would say it's like it's a parallel, but it's kind of like an opposite paradigm in a way. It's like instead of Yahuwah's people, it's the people he's taking vengeance on that there's a great cry. And the reason, by the way, if people are probably people that don't know this story are probably asking themselves, why is he, killing all the firstborn? What have they done? The thing is, he's taking vengeance. The Pharaoh first wanted to kill every firstborn Hebrew. So what Yahuwah is doing is, like the Torah will later said, vengeance is mine. I repay. So the Pharaoh thought it'd be a good idea to kill all the firstborn of Yahuwah's people. And Yahuwah's like, all right, well, I'm going to repay you. What you sow, you shall reap. You reap what you sow. So that, just to explain that, because I know not everyone that might be viewing on YouTube or wherever you're viewing this from is going to be, possibly we might have people that have never even heard the Exodus story. So just to kind of expound a little bit and explain the context of where we're at now in Exodus 12 and why Yahuwah's killing the firstborn of the Egyptians. So anyway, so that's the best explanation I can give for about how Pharaoh would know his son is dead. Most likely his wife found him first. I would have to go back to that, Brother Joshua. Hold on a second. Let me go back to that in Exodus 1, what chapter was where it talks about they killed Pharaoh's command to kill all the males. But I could have sworn it was firstborn. Maybe I'm wrong. Let's see here. Pharaoh's order to kill.
It's the reason Moses was in a basket.
Yeah. His parents, it was happening at that time, and his parents was like, all right, we got to put him in a basket and put him on the river. That's where he gets the name Masha from. Is Pharaoh's daughter names him Masha because I drew you out of the water. And so let's see here. I'm trying to find the exact verse. It talks about Pharaoh ordering the death of the firstborn, but I'm trying to see here. What chapter was that? I don't think it's in chapter 1. Chapter 1 is kind of like the beginning. Might be 3, maybe. No, 2, maybe. Yeah, the birth of Moses. So let's see here. Daughter of Pharaoh. Maybe it is chapter 1. Maybe it's like late in chapter 1. Names Israelites. Pharaoh oppresses Israel. Here we go. Chapter 1, verse 8. And there arose another king over Egypt, which just another interesting thing is, if you look at the word another in the Greek, it's kind of interesting. It talks about of another kind, like hetero. So it's interesting. Who knew not Joseph, and he said to his nation, or ethnos, behold, the race of the children of Yasharel is great multitude and is stronger than we. Come then, let us deal craftily with them. Lest at any time they be increased, and whensoever wars shall happen, so, out of fear. He set over them taskmasters, but as they humbled them, greatly abhorred. And the Egyptians tyrannized the children of Yasharel. According to the Brentons, they tyrannized them. And they embittered their life. Okay, enough news. All right. In the clay and in the brick, making all the works of plains. And the king of the Egyptians spoke to the midwives. The name of one was Sephora, and the name of the other was Pua. And he said, when you do the office of the midwives to the Hebrew women, and they are about to be delivered, if it be a male, kill it, but if a female, save it. Okay, so I see Brother Joshua's point. Okay, so yeah, basically all males. Okay. All right, so okay. So the midwives of women, yeah. So yeah, so basically Yahuwah is taking vengeance on Pharaoh at this point in time in Exodus 12 for what Pharaoh was doing with trying to kill all the male Hebrew boys. And obviously Moses has put it into, a basket to basically so that doesn't happen to him. He gets raised by the Egyptians, but at the same time, he actually knew his mother. If you actually read it in the text rather than the movies, that's where the movie gets it wrong. He actually knew his mother because his mother pretty much had to nurse him, and so it's not like he didn't know who his mother was. He actually even knew he was a Israelite because when he kills that Egyptian guy, it's premeditated. It's not like the movie. So anyway, that's a whole nother topic. But anyway, so all right. So anyway, we're gonna go to Joshua now. We're gonna read in Joshua. So yeah, I was kind of disappointed in verse 40 about the Lexham English Septuagint. I know not every no translations are perfect, but that was kind of bad. So yeah, I'm gonna make a little note about that when I read Exodus 12, I might want to use the Brentons. So anyway. Okay, so let me just stand my phone against something here so it's not falling down. Okay. All right. So we're going to continue with the Torah portion here. Joshua, I'm going to page 258 here in my Lexham. Yeah. So let's see. Here's page 258. Here we go. Chapter 5. Oh, before we start, I think that was an old raised hand. I think so. Yeah, it probably was. All right, here we go. Chapter 5 of Joshua. And it happened when they heard both the king of the Amorites, who were beyond the Jordan, and the king of the Phoenicians by the sea, that Yahuwah had dried up the Jordan River before the sons of Yasharal during their crossing. Their minds melted, and they were astounded, and there was no wisdom in them, none at all before the face of the sons of Yasharal. But by this time, Yahuwah said to Yahusha, make for yourself flint knives from sharp rock, and sitting down, circumcise the sons of Yasharal. And Yahusha made sharp flint knives and circumcised the sons of Yasharal on the place called the Hill of the Foreskins. This way, Yahusha purified the sons of Yasharal as many as were born during the journey, and as many as were uncircumcised from the coming out from Egypt. All these Yahusha circumcised for 42 years. 42 years Yasharal wandered in the Madbarite wilderness. Thus, most of those warriors who came out from the land of Egypt were uncircumcised men, those who disobeyed the commands of Elohim, concerning whom also he had determined they would not see the land that Yahuwah had sworn to give our ancestors, a land flowing with milk and honey, but instead of them, he raised up their children. And we were actually talking about this off the record last night. So these men that are about to get circumcised are the children of the original generation. So the generation talked about, our children, they're going to be devoured, or our children are going to be killed if we go into there and fight the Amorites and the Canaanites and all them. Their children are actually getting into the land and not them. And their children are the ones being circumcised. They did not see the land. Yahuwah swore to give our ancestors land flowing milk and honey, but instead of them, verse 7, he raised up their children, whom Yahusha circumcised because they had been uncircumcised along the way. After they were circumcised, they remained there resting, staying in the camp until they recovered. And Yahuwah said to Yahusha, son of Nun, on this day I have removed the insult of Egypt from you. Wow. And Yahusha called on the name of that place Gilgal. And the sons of Yasharal performed the Passover on the 14th day of the month from evening, from the sunset. So sunset is evening. Okay. At Jericho, in the area beyond the Jordan on the plain, and they ate from the grain of the land. And actually, I like the Brentons a little bit better in this verse. It actually will say the new grain of the land, okay? So that means there has to be new grain. The grain has to be ripening at this point for them to be eating new grain, okay? Sorry about that. I got it. My throat today, man. What the heck? So, sorry about that. Verse 11. Unleavened and fresh, it even says. Okay, verse 11. On this day, the manna came to an end after they ate from the grain of the land, and manna was available no longer to the sons of Yasharal. They enjoy the produce of the fleece of the Phoenicians in that year. Interesting, the fleece of the Phoenicians. So I'm going to keep myself from going into a rabbit hole with that one because the Phoenicians are kind of tied to the Babylonians and all that. I'm going to keep myself grounded here on the Sabbath. We could talk about that another time, what that could be referring to, but anyway. And it happened as Yahusha was at Jericho, looking up with his eyes, and he saw a person standing before him, and drawn sword was in his hand, and approaching Yahusha said to him, "Are you an ally or from the enemy?" I like how it says from the enemy, like from Satan. He said to him, he didn't answer him either way. He said to him, "I, the commander of the army of Yahuwah, now am here." And Yahusha fell on his face upon the earth and said to him, "Master, what do you command your servant?" And Yahuwah's commander said to Yahusha, "Untie your sandals from your feet, for the place upon which you are now standing is set apart." Before we continue here, I got a cross-reference because it's important to know who this commander is. So before we continue here, I am going to go to a cross-reference from one from Exodus and one from Revelations to figure out the identity of this commander. And I think some of my brothers and sisters know where I'm going with this, that I've came to the same conclusion who this person is. All right. Some of us would know him before he took on flesh in the Tanakh as the angel of Yahuwah. Okay, so let's go to Exodus chapter 3. Or actually, no, is it chapter 3? Let me just make sure that, yeah, I think it's chapter 3. The burning bush. All right, here we go. And an angel of Yahuwah appeared to him in the flaming fire out of the bush. And he saw that the bush burns with fire, but the bush was not consumed. And Moshe said, "I will go near and see this great sight, why the bush is not consumed." It jumps from the angel of Yahuwah to Yahuwah, literally instantaneously. Okay. And there's only one person in that bush. And when Yahuwah saw that he drew near to see, Yahuwah called him out of the bush. But I thought the angel of Yahuwah is in the bush. Masha, Masha. And he said, "What is it?" And he said, "Do not draw near here. Loose your sandals from off your feet, for the place where you stand is set apart ground." So basically, it's the same person that Joshua saw, or Yahusha, son of Nun, saw in Joshua chapter 5. The commander of Yahuwah's army is Yahusha Messiah. So that is why I wanted to bring that up. Okay. And we can actually prove this even from the Brit Hadashah in the book of Revelations, where it talks about the angel, the armies of Yahuwah followed him, when he's coming back on the day of his wrath. Let me see here. The armies of heaven. By the way, armies of heaven is like the same word for host of heaven. So just if whenever you see host of heaven, it's referring to the heavenly army. It's pretty much the same word. So armies of heaven follow him. Okay, let's find that verse in Revelations real quick. Revelations 19:14. So we're going to there now. We're going to go to Revelations. Okay, back here. All right, and let's see here. We are going to go to my sword here. All right. What the? Okay, that was strange. I don't know why it's doing that. My sword, you kill me, bud. What are you doing? Okay. All right. Revelations 19:14. Okay. So here we go. Restored in King James here. Revelations 19:14. And the armies which were followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen, white and clean. And then if we go to verse 16, just to confirm this is who we think it is. And he has on his vesture and on his thigh a name written, King of Kings, Master of Masters. Okay, so clearly this is referring to Yahusha being followed by the armies of heaven. Okay, which would make sense why he is called the commander of Yahuwah's army in the book of Joshua, chapter 5. So anyway, just wanted to show that. We can move on now to chapter 6. Okay. All right. Here we go. Joshua chapter 6. The conquest of Jericho. And Jericho was closed and fortified, and nobody came out from it, nor went in. And Yahuwah said to Yahusha, look, I have placed Jericho into your hand, and its king in it, and the soldiers in its army. But you must station the warriors around it in a circle, and it will be that right. It should say it will be that night, not right. And a little typo there. It will be that night when you sound the trumpets. They must shout, all the people together. And when they shout, the walls of the city will collapse spontaneously, and all the people will go in, rushing each at the face into the city. And Yahusha, son of Nun, went into the priests, and he spoke to them, saying, order the people to go around and encircle the city, and the warriors must pass by armed before Yahuwah, and 7 priests holding 7 trumpets must go in the same way before Yahuwah, and they must signal vigorously, and the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah must follow after them. The warriors must pass by in front, and the priests who are in the rear behind the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah playing the trumpets. And Yahusha commanded the people, saying, do not cry or let anyone hear your voice until the moment he himself tells you to shout. And then you will shout. And the ark of the covenant of Elohim had gone around, immediately departed to the camp and remained there. The second Yom, Yahusha rose in the morning, and the priests carried the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah, and 7 priests carrying the 7 trumpets passed on before Yahuwah, and the warriors went after them, and other crowds were behind the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah, and the priests sound their trumpets, and other crowds all circled the city closely, and they went back to the camp. This is how they behaved for 6 days. And on the 7th day, they rose at dawn and went around the city 6 times, and on the 7th circuit around, the priests sounded the trumpets, and Yahusha said to the sons of Yasharal, cry out, for Yahuwah has handed over you to the city, and the city itself will be cursed. And okay, what the heck? All right. Sorry about that. Stupid thing fell down. Okay, so then they went back, rose up and went 6 times. And Yahusha said to the sons of Yasharal, cry out, for Yahuwah has handed over to you the city, and the city itself will be cursed, and everything as much as is in it is for Yahuwah Sabaoth, which Sabaoth is just a Hebrew word of armies. Only keep safe Rahab the prostitute, her and whoever is in her house. But you keep very far from the cursed city, lest forming a plan you yourselves might steal from the cursed city, and you might set up camp with the sons of Yasharal with a accursed thing. and you will destroy us. And all the silver or gold or copper or iron will be set apart for Yahuwah. It will be brought to the treasury of Yahuwah. And the priests sounded the trumpets. As soon as the people hearing the trumpets, all the people together shouted loudly, making a great and powerfully loud noise, and the entire wall fell all around. And all the people went up into the city, and Yahusha focused on destroying it, and whatever was in the city, from male to female, from young to old, into the calf and the draft animal with the edge of his sword. And to the young men who spied out the area, Yahusha said, "Go into the house of the woman and bring her out from there, and whoever is with her." And the two young men who spied out the city went to the house of the woman, and they brought out Rahab the prostitute, and her father and her mother and her brother and her family, and everyone whoever was with her. And they placed her outside Yasharal's camp, and the city was set on fire, burning with everything in it. Only the silver and gold and copper and iron did they set aside to be brought to the treasury of Yahuwah, and Rahab the prostitute and all her family's house Yahusha spared, and her family has dwelled in Yasharal until this day, for she hid the spies whom Yahusha sent to spy out Jericho. And Yahusha swore on that day before Yahuwah, saying, "Greatly cursed is the person who will build that city. By his firstborn he will lay its foundation." Woo! "And by his youngest he will rebuild its gates." Wow, that's a huge curse, man. "And in this way Ozan from Bethel did. By Abiram his firstborn he laid its foundation, and by his youngest, though he escaped, he rebuilt its gates. And Yahuwah was with Yahusha, and his name was known throughout all the land." And that's a very interesting thing right there, that Yahusha, it was a righteous thing for him to curse the wicked. A lot of times we see in the New Testament, I think sometimes we kind of misunderstand Yahusha, where he's talking about Barak and do not curse and all that. I think sometimes we take isolated verses like that to the extreme, where it's a sin to ever curse someone. And that's just something to think about, because Yahusha, son of Nun, was a very righteous Israelite. I mean, he was pretty much foreshadowing Yahusha Messiah. So I'm just saying we might want to, before we make assumptions off of one isolated verse from the New Testament, we might want to use context. That's all I'm going to say about that. But so it could be a very particular purpose that he's saying, do not curse someone, you know. We could be missing a context there. So anyway, but that was the end of chapter 6 of the book of Joshua. So I don't really have any expoundings on those two chapters, because pretty much they're self-explanatory what was going on there. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to take a short intermission. We'll be right back, and we will be starting, I believe, the prophets portion, I'm thinking here. Yeah. So we'll be starting our prophet portion, which is the book of Ezekiel, chapters 10 to 17 next. So please stay tuned. We'll be back shortly. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for joining and listening in. We will be back in a little bit. Shalom. All right.